My stepdaughter went crazy and fed me peanuts on our honeymoon, which made me feel bad. Now she promises to quit college because her dad found out about everything and forbids her to study.
So I, 44F, got married last month to my boyfriend of 4 years, Jeff, 48M. He also has a daughter from a previous marriage, Addison, 18F. I don't know why, but for some reason, Addison has never liked me. Jeff and I started dating about 4 years ago since we had a couple of common friends and they thought that it would be nice to set us up. I had also been married before, but I did not have any kids. My divorce was finalized 7 years ago and it was not really a bad divorce, as such. My ex-husband and I just realized that we had fallen out of love and were more like friends, rather than partners. So we decided to mutually part ways and that's how that marriage ended. So we did not end on bad terms, but we are not friends anymore, we have not kept in touch. Jeff was also married before, as I had mentioned above, but unfortunately, his wife passed away 7 years after Addison was born. Jeff had had a couple of girlfriends after that but nothing too serious. So both of us had been single for a really long time and our common friends decided to set us up, which we are really thankful for because it turned out to be the best decision of our lives. And I have never had any relationship issues, only the mundane stuff. We get along really well, he understands me, and I really understand him. The only thing that I would say was a bit of a problem in our relationship was his daughter. I did not have a problem with her, just to be clear. But I always just got this vibe from her that she did not like me, and she believed that her father was too good for me. Which, I don't think is a bad thing, it just means that she thinks highly of her father and that's the way that it should be. But then acting like I'm not good enough for her father and constantly giving me weird looks or trying to be all snide around me and making me feel weird about myself, I don't know if it's the right way to go about appreciating her father. I did bring it up a couple of times with Jeff, at the beginning of our relationship, and I asked him if she was this way around all of his previous girlfriends. And just as I had expected, he told me that this is how she usually behaved whenever he brought home another woman, and he had been trying to talk to her and get her to stop behaving that way with his partners, since no woman appreciated this. And it would lead to a lot of fights, but eventually, he would always choose his daughter because that's his family. So it would almost always result in a breakup and he seemed pretty frustrated with it, but he told me that he couldn't help the situation and this is how it was, since she just refused to change and grow up. She had lost her mother when she was 7 years old and can be really tough for a child, so I decided to be a little compassionate towards her and ignore the way that she would behave with me. She could behave as badly as she wanted to get to me. I had made up my mind about it and I really liked Jeff, so it was easy for me to ignore her weird behavior. Besides, when I started dating Jeff, she was already 14. I knew that the teenage years could be a weird phase for kids and she was going through puberty, so it was quite natural for her to act like a brat. I did not have any kids of my own, but I had heard stories, and I knew that eventually, she would grow up and change. At least that's what I had expected. I was not about to get into drama with a 14-year-old, so I just continued to ignore her behavior. Then, last year, she went away to college, and by that time, she had already started changing her behavior. She did not give me any weird looks anymore and neither did she try to put me down, but I guess we had come to an unspoken agreement after 2 years of being together, in some sort of way, and she had realized that she would not be able to drive me away like she had driven away all the other women who had been involved with Jeff before me. So she had given up, trying to do so, and we came to a place of mutual respect and she stopped picking on me and I remained unaffected. Jeff proposed to me after she went away to college and shortly after that, we got married. It was a very small and intimate ceremony, and obviously, Addison was also present. I had expected her to be upset or at least a little put off, but she seemed quite okay with everything. So for that reason, her behavior at the wedding, I assumed that maybe she was finally coming around and warming up to me since she had been reasonably nice to me at the wedding. I guess I should have said my standard tire and not fallen for any of that BS because that really cost me. I had started to believe that maybe she was coming around and so, when she asked me if she could accompany us on our honeymoon, I ended up agreeing to it after giving it a little bit of thought and discussing it with Jeff, who also seemed to be on board with the idea. But there's a lot of context for that as well. I'm not a total idiot who allowed my adult stepdaughter, who hates me, to accompany me on my honeymoon. So Jeff and I had decided that we were going to go to Egypt for our honeymoon, since that's where one of our favorite novels was based and it's also a generally beautiful place. And Addison wanted to accompany us because she is a history major and Egypt would be the perfect place for her, and we sort of agreed with that. It has a really rich history and beautiful culture, so we did not want to deprive her of that and we agreed to let her tag along. She had asked us if she could accompany us 3 weeks before we were supposed to leave, and it took us 1 week to come to a decision about it. After we told her that we were okay with her coming along with us, she was really happy, and I was the one who broke the news to her, so she seemed really thankful to me. I will not lie, I was actually looking forward to bonding with her on the trip because I thought that it was about time that we put aside our differences from the past and started afresh, and I was planning on bringing that up during the trip, at some point, and then we would all have a really great time together. Because now, Jeff and I are going to be together for the rest of our lives, and I don't want to have any sort of unresolved issues with my stepdaughter. She was still in college since she had missed some classes, but she had come back home for the wedding and did not want to miss more, since she was also leaving to accompany us on the honeymoon and that would be another week or so, and only came back home on the day of our flight. The day that she came back home, she arrived about 3 hours before we were supposed to leave for the airport and everything was pretty rushed, so I did not really get time to speak to her properly or interact with her much. We were all in a rush and all of us really cared about just getting out of the flight and landing safely, and doing everything on time. I did not notice anything off about her behavior and there was absolutely no way I would have been able to predict what was going to happen once we landed. Everything went really smoothly while we were departing and even on the flight, things were pretty smooth. Once we landed at the airport in Egypt, we took a cab and we went to the hotel. We were pretty tired and especially Addison, since she had traveled the entire day, so all of us decided that we had better get some rest after the long flight, and in the evening, we would go out. We had decided early on that we would stay at the same hotel, but Addison would have a different room on a different floor so that Jeff and I would get to properly enjoy our honeymoon. And I think that was more than fair, given the fact that we had at least allowed her to accompany us. Jeff was napping in the room but around 1 hour after we had reached the hotel, I woke up because Addison was calling me and she apparently wanted to go out and get some lunch. I did not find that because she didn't have a proper meal on the flight, and she wanted company, so I agreed with her. She invited me to her room. She told me that we could just sit in her room and eat since she had already ordered something special for the both of us. I thought that it was really nice of her, so we got to talking and I did not notice anything we had going on. Then, we got the food and I was a little skeptical about trying out the dessert because it looked really weird and sloppy, but the guy who brought it to us made it exactly according to the instructions that had been given to them by Addison, and even she said that she had read about this dessert, which was apparently traditional Egyptian dessert that she had read about online and I don't remember what she came up with, but it was not something that I had before. I did not want to hurt anybody's feelings, so I decided to try it out. And if it's a really bad mistake because the next thing that I remember, I woke up in the ER because I had the worst allergic reaction I have had in the last 10 years. Apparently, she had instructed them to use a lot of peanut butter in the dessert and I am deathly allergic to peanuts. In the dessert that she had ordered, she had specifically instructed them to use a lot of peanut butter in it, and then, she had told them to use a lot of vanilla ice cream and dates to cover the smell of the peanut butter. Unfortunately, I hadn't smelt the dish before I tried it and I just had a couple of bites without even thinking about it. That was really enough for me to have a terrible reaction to the stuff and that's how I ended up in the ER. I just remember my throat closing up and having trouble breathing after I had a few bites and I knew that there was something really weird about the dish, but there was nobody else in the room apart from Addison and I knew that she was crazy, but I'm sure that she was not crazy enough to let me die in front of her, so I yelled at her to bring me my EpiPen from my room. Thankfully, she had the sense to realize that something had gone horribly wrong, so she instantly called the receptionist and told them to get an ambulance for me and then alerted Jeff to what was going on. I don't remember much after that since it was all a blur and I was really struggling to just keep breathing. I had to be taken to the nearest hospital and there, they treated me in the ER. This was 3 days ago and I'm still in disbelief about what happened. Jeff and I are still in Egypt, for the record, but Addison has been sent home. Once I was discharged from the hospital and came back to the hotel, I narrated the entire incident to Jeff. All that he had known was what he had gathered from the hotel authorities, that Addison had ordered a dessert loaded with peanut butter and had served it to me. The next thing they knew, I was being rushed out of the hotel to the ER because I had a severe allergic reaction. The hotel staff made it very clear that nobody had mentioned anything about being allergic to peanuts, and they were just adhering to the instructions that they had been provided with. Nevertheless, they still apologized for whatever had happened, even though it was not their fault. Jeff had already had a one-on-one conversation with Addison about what had happened and she had been really scared, so he had just yelled at her while we were in the hospital and she had refused to comment on anything. I had consumed such copious amounts of peanut butter that they had to keep me overnight to observe if I had any other symptoms or whatever. The next morning, I went back to the hotel with Jeff and Addison, and she did not say anything to anybody for the rest of the time that she was there. Once we were back at the hotel, I explained everything that had happened to Jeff, while Addison remained in her room. Once he had heard me out, he was furious and immediately got up and went to Addison's room. He was there for about 2 hours and once he came back, he told me that he was sending Addison back on the next flight home. She had not even put up a fight because she knew that what she had done was incredibly dangerous and could have gotten me killed. So she literally had nothing to say to defend her and had just accepted whatever punishment she got. Jeff also told me that he had spoken to Addison and told her that from now on, he was not going to send her any allowances, and she was completely on her own. He was going to pay off her college tuition, since he had committed that to her, and he was going to live up to his promise. But apart from that amount, he was not going to give her any sort of money, and if she wanted cash for her other expenses while she was at college, she would have to figure it out all on her own. Because he was sick of cleaning up after her and she needed to learn how to be a decent human being first. And I thought that it was a fair decision. Even if I didn't, it would not be in my hands to change it because it was between Jeff and his daughter. I did not bring up anything about Addison after that discussion because I just wanted to be able to enjoy my honeymoon, and talking about it over and over again would not change the facts. However, Addison did not find it acceptable that her father had decided to cut off her funds, but instead of bothering him with it, she decided to start bothering me. She has sent me multiple emails so far, telling me that she was just trying to prank me and she had completely forgotten about my peanut allergy. She told me that apparently her plan was to feed me a bad dessert and that was it. She did not have any ulterior motives. I highly doubt that, but anyway, it's not my fault that I had to be sent to the ER because of her idea of what constitutes a good prank. It was her plan and now she was facing the consequences of it. I can't help that. I have told Jeff about the emails and he has told me that he's going to try to talk to her, and I know that he has. But she still keeps sending me emails every other hour. In the last one, she was trying to guilt trip me so badly, saying that she lives really far away from home and needs the money since she doesn't have the time to work because she's exhausted after a day at college. And I'm the only person who can make it happen. She is literally begging me to fix this situation. To be honest, I don't really want to because I don't want to get into this and ruin my honeymoon. At the same time, I feel kind of bad for her as well. If it indeed was a prank, it just backfired badly, and the consequences have been dire. I just don't know what to do and I feel like a bad person right now. Ida for not wanting to talk to my husband about giving his daughter money when she goes back to college? Update 1. Hi, so I took the advice that most of you guys had for me and stopped reading the emails that Addison has been sending me and just focused on enjoying my honeymoon. It has been 24 hours since I made the post here. And most people in the comment section only had one thing to say, that I should just stop reading her emails if they are making me pay that. I guess that's right since I can't change anything about it because I don't want to let myself feel guilty for something that I'm not responsible for. Even if it was a prank. And I owe it to myself to enjoy this holiday, so that's what I'm going to be trying to do. I also discussed it with Jeff and he told me that I made the right call by choosing to ignore those emails because reading them again and again is only going to make me feel worse about what's happened. I can't change it and I can't change his mind either because he knows that what he is doing is the right thing to do in this situation and Addison really needs to grow up. She is in college right now and there is really no excuse for this kind of behavior anymore. She's not a teenager who cannot regulate her emotions and keep them under control. I think she has had several opportunities to talk to me and clear the air between the two of us, but she hasn't done that yet and that's not on me. I don't need to feel guilty about any of this right now. And yeah, I'm just gonna try and enjoy my vacation. I've been working really hard for the past few years and we have earned this. Update 2. Hi, so Jeff and I are back from Egypt and when we came back home this afternoon, we realized that Addison was waiting for us at home. She had never gone back to college after being sent back here from Egypt and had been waiting for us at home all along. She knew whether the spare keys had been kept and that's how she got in and had been living on her own for the past few days, waiting for us to come back. She had been pretty comfortable, and when we came back home, she was actually watching television in the living room. She didn't even seem surprised to see us back and greeted us like it was no big deal. This time, much better space of mind and state than I was previously, the last time that she saw me in the ER. So I decided to deal with her this time. I told her that I did not feel safe around her. I was not comfortable with her living with us, so she had to go back to college. Also, because Jeff was paying for her to get educated and she was wasting that money by staying at home while we were not around. I told her that I did not want her there and instructed her to get out. But instead of speaking to me, she completely ignored whatever I said, and went straight to Jeff. She told him that she did not care about anything else, but she knew that he could not just cut her off and stop paying for her expenses, just because of a stupid prank that she had pulled. She tried to emotionally manipulate him by saying that she was his only daughter, and he was the only family that she had that she could count on, so he could not just abandon her like this. I could see Jeff softening up, so I decided to intervene and reminded him that her little prank had actually sent me to the ER. And I was not even sure if it was completely innocent or not because judging by her past, she was fully capable of doing it on purpose, and then trying to cover it up because of the consequences. I did not want to say that out loud, but honestly, she had left me with no other option. Did not want to make it sound like I was trying to drive a wedge between the two of them, but she was acting in a really disrespectful way. She had said that she was sorry, but how could I even count that when she was acting like this after I had come back from my trip? When I tried to imply that she might have sent me to the ER with her prank on purpose, she finally turned around and acknowledged my existence. She seemed very angry and told me that if she had to actually do that on purpose, she would have gone with something much worse and wouldn't even have called the hotel authorities and got me an ambulance to take me to the hospital. She would have just let me suffer for a couple of minutes more. It sounded pretty psychopathic, the way that she put it, and I told her that was the exact reason why I did not trust her anymore, and I did not want to live with us. I told her that she had grossly misused the trust that her father had placed in her, and I had tried to be very kind to her for so many years, but she just didn't care about it and did not value anybody's emotions, which is why she was behaving like this. Things got a little heated and we were arguing, but then she got all up in my face and then she shoved me. I'm sure that she did not mean for it to be a hard push, but I kind of took a few steps back, and that's when Jeff intervened and told her that he had had enough and she had to leave. Was just about it because she was getting physical and she had already put my life in danger once. He was not about to let it happen again. She started accusing him of prioritizing me over his own daughter, and he said that he was just prioritizing doing the right thing and nothing else. There was nothing more to it than that. So they had a bit of an argument, and she accused him of a lot of things, and called him a lot of names, but then she finally left after packing her bags and she seemed more angry than sad about what was going on. It has been a couple of hours since then and Jeff and I are unpacking and trying to wrap our heads around what's going on right now. It's very upsetting, the thing that's going on with Addison. Because at the end of the day, she's just a teenager and I do feel bad for her. But I can't help it, she pushed me today and she has already sent me to the ER once, and as Jeff says, it's not about to happen again. We are simply not going to entertain it or encourage it. So she can look out for herself now since we have given her enough opportunities to change and become a better person. Update 3. So it has been a week since we returned from our honeymoon, and today, Jeff told me that Addison sent him an email and said that he was going to drop out of college if she did not receive money from him every month as an allowance like she had been used to before. Because apparently everything was getting too stressful for her and she couldn't do this anymore. This is getting really difficult because as much as he wants to punish her, he doesn't want her to drop out of college and ruin her life. And I don't know what to say to him because this is really getting complicated. I don't like Addison anymore. She has been horrible to me and has done a lot of nasty things, but at the same time, I don't know if I want her to fail in life. I definitely wouldn't want that for anybody. I do feel like she's threatening Jeff, to a certain degree, since it's like saying that she will ruin her own life if he doesn't bend over backward for her. I think it will be pretty easy for her to find a job and start working and pay for herself, but she's not going to do that. It's not even that she has to worry about her college tuition, that's still going to be covered by Jeff. But for everything else, her miscellaneous expenses, she just has to arrange money for that. She doesn't even have to worry about rent since her college provides on-campus accommodation and it's pretty easy for her. So she has to either live very frugally and take up a part-time job or she can continue cribbing. I personally don't have anything to say about any of this, but Jeff is really stressed out. The only thing I feel right now is kind of annoyed at the way that she is behaving because she's just making everything difficult for everyone. It doesn't have to be as hard as this, but it feels like unless there is some problem, she's not happy. I honestly, don't know what to say anymore, just really frustrated by the way that she's acting. She really needs to grow up and start thinking like an adult instead of constantly throwing temper tantrums over every little thing because it's getting old now. Update 4. I had a little discussion with Jeff about the email that Allison had sent to him, and together, we decided that we were just going to respond to her and tell her that we were going to be fine with any decision that she made, but whatever she decided, she should not expect us to financially support her if she decides to drop out. She is, after all, 18 years of age and legally, she's not a minor anymore. Also, she has not been living with us for the past few months, she has been in college. So if she tries to come back home, we're just gonna have her reported to the cops for trespassing and she won't be able to live with us. So she has two options right now. She can continue with college and deal with the consequences of her actions and try to get a part-time job and look after herself. Basically, she can choose to grow up. Or, she can do the same thing, but the hard way. Because if she decides to drop out of college, she will not only be out of a place to live, but she will also be out of our lives forever. Because Jeff has made it very clear that he does not want to entertain this BS since she constantly tries to emotionally manipulate him and stuff because it's getting really nasty now. I think we will be completely, and this is what it is right now. We don't have to bend over backward for her, that's it. Jeff was also getting really tired, so this was the only thing that occurred to us. We sent an email to her a couple of hours ago and are waiting for a response from her. I have no idea what she's going to say to this. She's probably just going to try to blame the entire thing on me and act like this was all my idea, but really, I did not come up with this email. It was all Jeff. He was the one who said that he had had enough. The only thing that I said to him was that I think that he should go ahead with this because she really needs to grow up. In the end, this is for her own betterment. Update 5. Hey, it's midnight right now and we just received an email from Addison. She told us that she had decided to stay in college and was going to get a part-time job. She expressed how disappointed she was in the way that Jeff was speaking to her and said that she had never thought that she would have to ever face a day when her own father would not be on her side anymore. There was a lot of manipulative crap in the email as well, which I don't even want to talk about because she's just trying to play the victim and we all know it quite well now. Anyway, my point is that our plan worked. She is going to stay in college and face the consequences of her actions. And Jeff and I are just going to try and not think about this because we are still in the honeymoon phase right now and we want to have fun. It's been stressful for the past couple of days. We can't deal with that sort of thing anymore. We deserve better.